We were projected to be the 11th team in the conference, sixth seed at best prior to the season. And now that things have changed, it still seems like we're getting denied that seat at the big boy table with the Bucks, the Nets, the Jazz, the Warriors, the Suns. And it's kind of like a serious case of something called the anchoring effect. Shout out to Steph Curry. He wrote an article about it where it's a psychological phenomenon, basically, where people rely too heavily on their first impression of something. And despite changes to that particular thing, they rely on what the first thing they saw was. So the first thing that they saw.
Let me put you on game.
But
Yeah.
let's talk about a team at the top of the Eastern Conference, the Chicago Bulls, baby. Let's go. I'll just, as a fan, after 5 years of complete ineptitude, of Jim Boylan, of just horrible basketball, meaningless basketball, hopeless basketball, of punching clocks at practice for no particular reason, and puzzling, absolutely mind-blowing post-game comments from one of the worst coaches I've ever seen, just settling for complete mediocrity year in and year out, and just banking on young players who don't necessarily need to be banked on. Like, it's just incredible to actually have a team that we can root for. And outside of that, just having a team that, I mean, I can feel comfortable saying it, can actually win a chip this year. Not saying they're going to, but I don't want anyone to get me mixed up, and I don't want anybody in the comments telling me that I said they're going to win the championship, but they're in the conversation. They're one of the 3 best teams in the East, and I think they're one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the league. So if the year is crazy, COVID is crazy, injuries are always crazy during the playoffs, anything can happen. I think that they have a good chance.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm gonna get on my mad hooper, mad hoop fan for a second. I think that the narrative around the Bulls has changed, of course, with them having all of this success, but the doubt remains, which is frustrating because Demar was supposed to be the worst signing of the offseason. There's so many questionable decisions that other people thought that the Bulls were making. We were projected to be the 11th team in the conference, sixth seed at best prior to the season. And now that things have changed, it still seems like we're getting denied that seat at the big boy table with the Bucks, the Nets, the Jazz, the Warriors, the Suns. And it's kind of like a serious case of something called the anchoring effect. Shout out to Steph Curry. He wrote an article about it where it's a psychological phenomenon, basically, where people rely too heavily on their first impression of something. And despite changes to that particular thing, they rely on what the first thing they saw was. So the first thing that they saw from the Bulls was a play-in late, maybe like an early playoff exit team. But now they've evolved. They're changing. Their style of basketball has changed, so to the point where you have to kind of change your expectations, and that's not happening. It's because this team is a contender. This team is one of the best teams in the conference and one of the best teams in the league, but it hasn't quite changed for the national media. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But they're a top 10 defense. They're a top 5 offense. The team overall just works. DeMar's been getting a whole lot of love, but Zach LaVine has been one of the best players in the NBA this season. He deserves an all-NBA spot. He's one of the best shooters, one of the best at-rim finishers, and one of the best ISO scorers in the league. He leads all volume scorers in the league in scoring efficiency. He's been competing really well defensively and has gotten a number of crucial stops down the stretch of really, really close games. So he's been great. But, I mean, of course, there's the guy that we got to talk about. There's Demar Derozan. Again, supposed to be the worst signing of the offseason, universally panned. $28 million was a stretch to so many people, but now it's turned out that $28 million is basically a bargain considering how well he's playing. Those 2 back-to-back buzzer beaters were some of the best moments in my life as a basketball fan. To be perfectly honest, the one against Indiana off of one leg, he didn't know what was on the clock, but it didn't matter because he put it up, went in, swish. And then, of course, the very next night, like against the Washington Wizards over Bradley Beal, incredible. Yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome story. I'm having so much fun as a fan. He's been all NBA, all-star starter. He's been our leader down the stretch in the fourth quarter. He's been one of the best. He's been the best fourth quarter player in the league. He's been unquestionably one of the 5 best players in the NBA this season. I think he deserves MVP love. I think he deserves first team All NBA. But Yeah, it's been. I can't really say much more, man. It's been excellent. I know I went on like a long tirade, but it's well deserved because we went from a bottom feeder to the first in the East, and it feels great.
Yeah, I mean, you are highlighting a lot of their best attributes. The Chicago Bulls are for real. What, only 10 losses so far in the season. Demar, he's what, top 9 in MVP percentage right now at about a 3% probability based on Basketball Reference. As a team, you guys, like your top 9 guys, 8 of them are above their position averages in terms of true shooting percentage. So you guys are knocking down shots, even though and that's really a testament because you guys have one of the slower paces in the league, but you're able to make up for it by just being consistent in terms of shooting efficiency, 4th in 3-point percentage, 7th in point differential. And when you add that, so those numbers are pretty good. But then you get a guy like DeMar who can actually close a game out effectively, get to any spot that he wants on the court, basically night in, night out. It really makes it hard to match up against against a team like that. It's going to be really fascinating in the playoffs because I believe you guys could not easily, but there's definitely a path towards the Eastern Conference Finals, especially with the Bulls' ability to basically demolish the bad teams in the East. If you're a bad team in the East, the Bulls will kind of wipe you clean. And I look at some of the quality wins you guys have gotten. Miami's been really the only team that's giving you trouble. You've beaten the Clippers, you've beaten the Nuggets, you've beaten, the Bucks, you've
The
beaten
Lakers,
Brooklyn,
Nets twice.
Lakers. Yeah, it's like quality wins across the board. And yeah, my bad for doubting you. Like I thought maybe top 4 tops, but
No, it's reasonable.
right
the,
now.
the doubts were
Yeah.
the doubts were reasonable because you can't
Yeah.
you take all of those new pieces and you put all of those players together. There's no guarantee that it would work. I think we talked about it before the season, and I told you like, but when Pat Williams was in the lineup, I was like, he's the only player in the starting lineup that averages less than 4 assists a game. DeMar DeRozan is the only player in the starting lineup that isn't above or approaching 40% from 3. And then you look at the defense of a guy like Lonzo Ball, who's been excellent this season. You look at a guy like Alex Caruso, who's also been excellent this season. You're getting contributions from a guy like Ayo Dosunmu, who's a 2nd-round pick this year and putting up numbers. And he's one of the best like young perimeter defenders in the league. Like you're getting contributions from all over the place. I think the only team that right now that I'm probably a little fearful of in the East is the Bucks, because I don't think we have anything for Giannis. I don't think I mean, most teams don't, honestly, because Giannis is Giannis. But I think with Pat out, he's a 6'8", 230. He's a diverse defender. Like he's the kind of guy you will put on Giannis. He's not going to stop him, but he at least will stop him from running, rough shot over us on every play. So it's tough. I mean, hopefully he can come back before the end of the season. But just briefly on DeMar as well, like you said he's top 9, but I think he needs to be top 5, because I think that there's people like a Jokic that's having a more statistically impressive season than he is. But MVP historically has been a team success award primarily. There's some aberrations like Russell Westbrook in his triple-double season, but mostly it's been given to the guy that's near or at the top of the conference in terms of team success. So the Bulls are at the top of the conference. They're 2.5 games ahead of both the Nets and the Bucks. And I think if you're looking at guys like Steph, you're looking at a guy like KD, I think DeMar has to be right up there with the rest of those guys. But yeah, I think he deserves at least a little bit more love for MVP. And I think Zach deserves a little bit more love just as a player in the league, because I think we have 2 top 15 guys, unquestionably, at this point in the season. There's another conversation about Zach, but I think I want to save that for next week. Gonna get off my Bulls high horse